Am I the asshole for making Christmas awkward when I refused my stepdad's adoption plea? Christmas is supposed to be a time of joy and celebration, but for me, it turned into a nightmare. My name is Ryan, and I'm 15 years old. My story begins long before this Christmas, back when my dad passed away while my mom was still pregnant with me. Growing up, I never knew my dad, but my older brother, who was 6 when Dad died, made sure I felt his presence. My brother would often tell me stories about Dad. These weren't just any stories, they were the bedtime stories that made my childhood special. Instead of tales from books or imaginary adventures, my brother recounted real-life moments with Dad. He had 5 main stories he'd lived through, and he told them with such detail and affection that they felt like my own memories. Occasionally, he'd share stories he heard from Dad's family, but those were less frequent. These stories were my connection to a man I never got to meet, making me feel like I had a dad, even though he wasn't physically there. When I was 6, everything changed. My mum met my stepdad, and after just 5 months of dating, they got married. My stepdad was eager to form a family and wanted to adopt my brother and me. My brother, however, was strongly opposed to this. He had a deep connection to our dad and saw the stepdad as an intruder. They had a huge fight when the topic of adoption came up, because our stepdad claimed he was now the man of the house and our family. My brother retorted that he was a stranger, which wasn't far from the truth, since we had only known him for 3 months. This clash set the tone for their relationship. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of adoption either. It felt like an attempt to erase my dad's memory. This sentiment pissed off my stepdad. He kept bringing up the adoption multiple times in the first year, and then about 5 times a year after that. My brother's reaction was always the same, a vehement no. At one point, he even said he'd rather be dead than let our stepdad adopt him. As for me, I tried to be polite but firm in my refusal. I told my stepdad I didn't want to be adopted and that being asked repeatedly was frustrating. Yet he persisted, saying he deserved to be our dad and that my mum wanted this too. They argued it wasn't fair for me to refuse since I never knew my dad. Over the years, this issue created a lot of tension. My brother bore the brunt of my mum's anger, being blamed for the ongoing refusal. My stepdad kept pressuring me, saying that at my age, I should want a dad. These words haunted me at various stages of my life. I remember one particular incident when I was about 10 years old. It was my birthday, and my stepdad had planned a big party. All my friends were invited, and it was supposed to be a happy occasion. But before the party started, he pulled me aside and brought up the adoption again. He said it would make him really happy if I agreed to be his son on my birthday. I felt so pressured and trapped. I just wanted to enjoy my birthday without the stress of this conversation. I told him no, but the refusal hung in the air throughout the party. He was visibly upset, and it cast a shadow over what should have been a joyful day. As I grew older, my brother and I became closer. He was my rock, the one who understood what I was going through. We often talked about our stepdad and how he made us feel. My brother would remind me of our dad's stories and tell me that it was okay to hold on to those memories. He never pressured me to accept our stepdad and always supported my decisions. Fast forward to yesterday, Christmas Eve. My mum and stepdad decided it was time for another adoption talk. They sat me down, and before I could even respond, my stepdad laid out an ultimatum. He said he was tired of not having kids of his own, tired of being dismissed as a dad, and that if I didn't let him adopt me, he would either divorce my mum or ignore my brother and me forever. My mum chimed in, pleading with me to help her avoid a divorce. She asked if I wanted to be responsible for their marriage falling apart. I felt cornered and angry. I told them I didn't care if they got divorced, and that I wasn't going to give in just to save their marriage. My stepdad looked hurt, and my mum was furious. She couldn't believe I would be so callous. The rest of the evening was tense, and today, Christmas Day, isn't any better. My mum's family is upset with me for making things awkward. The holiday atmosphere is ruined, and I've decided to hide out in my bedroom to avoid the intensity downstairs. This morning, my aunt came to talk to me. She tried to understand my perspective, but also emphasized how much my mom and stepdad love me. She said that my stepdad has always tried to be there for me, and that this rejection is hurting him deeply. I explained to her that it's not about whether he loves me or not. It's about my connection to my dad, and how I feel about the adoption. She nodded, but I could tell she still didn't fully grasp my feelings. After she left, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I thought about all the times my stepdad had been there for me, teaching me how to ride a bike, helping me with my homework, and attending my school events. He had tried in his way to be a father figure, but it always felt forced to me. I appreciated his efforts, but they never changed how I felt about the adoption. The rest of the day was a blur. I could hear the laughter and chatter from downstairs, but it felt distant and hollow. My mum came to my room once to ask if I wanted to join them, but I declined. I needed time to think and to process everything that had happened. As evening approached, I heard a knock on my door. It was my brother. He came in and sat beside me, putting an arm around my shoulders. He didn't say anything at first, just sat with me in silence. Then he started talking about our dad, recounting one of his favorite stories. It was about the time Dad took him fishing for the first time, and how they spent the whole day laughing and bonding. Listening to my brother, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. He reminded me that it was okay to hold on to those memories, and that I didn't have to feel guilty for not wanting to be adopted. We talked for hours, and it felt good to share my feelings with someone who truly understood. My brother reassured me that I wasn't alone, and that he would always support me, no matter what. He also suggested that maybe it was time to have an honest conversation with our stepdad, to explain my feelings without the pressure of an ultimatum. So, here I am, wondering if I did the right thing. Am I the asshole for standing my ground and refusing to be adopted, even if it means making Christmas awkward and potentially causing my mum's marriage to fall apart? This situation is complicated, and I don't know the future. But I do know one thing. I need to stay true to myself and honor the memory of my dad in a way that feels right for me. As I write this, I realize that maybe, just maybe, there's a way to find common ground. Perhaps if my stepdad understood the depth of my feelings, he would stop pushing for the adoption and accept our relationship for what it is. And maybe my mom would see that it's not about choosing sides, but respecting our emotions and the memories we hold dear. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Christmas may have been awkward, but it's just one day. The important thing is to keep communicating and trying to understand each other. Maybe, in time, we can find a way to be a family without the pressure of adoption hanging over us. Until then, I'll hold on to my dad's stories and the bond with my brother, knowing that they are my true family, no matter what.